Okay, so we will be slowly starting. I hope online people can hear us well. I mean, there's a number of microphones, but I'm not sure how well they actually work. So if you do not hear us well, please send a message in the chat and we will fix it. So welcome today. It's the Accelerator session on practical guidance to access circular financing. Yesterday we were in the WCEF, the World Circular Economy Forum, in one of the main sessions, and we were talking finance. And we're referring to this session specifically also because we think that it's important that we get a bit more practical about what it actually means to get financing. So how can businesses really access money? Today we have a very exciting session for that. We have a number of speakers that will report from their experiences as businesses. We have a number of practical tools really for businesses to access funding. And we also have some experiences from financiers in the room. I'm your host today. My name is Marvin Nusek. I'm working as the finance lead at Circular Economy. And maybe just one more kind of piece of information, what we also presented yesterday. So Circular Economy is known for the Circularity Gap Report, where we measure the state of circularity globally. And we just recently released the executive summary for the Circularity Gap Report Finance. So we really, for the first time, try to track where money is coming from in the global economy and to what kind of circular business models and activities it's flowing. I think one finding which is very relevant for the session today, because we also focus more on the early stage businesses, on SMEs and so on, startups. One of the important findings is that there is really this valley of death. We do see that there's quite a lot of grants available for very early startups. We also know that there is quite a lot of debt available from banks where you can basically lend money. But in the in-between phase, there's often a bit of a valley of death, as they call it. So the venture capital, for example. I don't now see the agenda. We have a few housekeeping rules. Maybe we can go back to that slide first. No? So just so you know, the housekeeping rules for today, we will record the session. So you will be also able to watch it back and you don't have to take as specific notes. Please turn off your camera. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. And there will also be an opportunity to ask questions, and we will get into that in a bit. But first, I will run you high level through the agenda. So what we're going to do today is, this is the welcome and opening, obviously. This is just, to welcome you, basically. We have today also the Prevent Waste Alliance, which in cooperation with the GIZ is going to launch their financing circularity report. Martin will do that in a bit. We will, after that, learn from a number of businesses, from one business called Fair Monde, really the perspectives on how really to access circular economy funding. We will also have a presentation from the Definite CCRI, that's a Circular City and Regions Initiative, who will share some insights on how early stage businesses really can develop to access finance, and tips and tricks basically from my colleague Luke. We then will also talk about the Circular Economy Finance Navigator from GIZ. Lena will present that later. We have more challenges and key insights from funders as well. So we have from Andy, the Pro User Fund, who will give us a bit of an introduction about that. And then last but not least, we also have our friends from Friesland, from Leeuwarden in the Netherlands, who really have an innovative method to depreciate, where we really more accurately value resources, which in the end should also ease the access to finance. I'm just pausing for a second to test, does the online crowd here as well? No problems? Okay. Great. Okay, so with that then, we go to the next section of the presentation. So there's two QR codes and two links that you can now follow. First, we want to really know who is in the room. We want to understand what kind of businesses maybe, but maybe some financiers are here. So you have now some time to click on that link, open that brief form, fill in who you are, and also what you're looking for. So really what you would like to learn from the session. And I'll give you a minute to do that. And there is another QR code and form available on the next slide, where you, throughout the entire session, because we have a number of different speakers, and it's important that we already collect some of these questions, because we want to make sure that you are also able to ask and get the answers to the things that you actually care about. So we have this form ready, where you can submit all the questions during the whole session. And at the very end, we will have a Q&A with all the speakers here on the panel to get your questions answered. So keep that link open. And yes, does it work? Again, checking with the online crowd. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So we're ready to look at the results. Who actually is here? So we see that the 2/3 is almost companies and businesses. Some NGOs are here, and also some financiers. So maybe we can even link them up at the very end of the session. What other insights do we get from that? How much expertise? No expertise? Yes. Okay. So you have the field of finance for circular economy. A little bit or very familiar. Well, I mean, that's a proper balance. I mean, after this session, I'm sure you will all click very familiar. And more is still moving, people still answering. Okay, have you ever experienced any of the following challenges? That's very interesting always. What is the biggest challenge? Struggling to find the right funder or an investment of the appropriate size. Yeah, I mean, this was also yesterday who watched the main session. It is tricky. The financial sector can be very diverse and complex. So really understanding what kind of financing instrument, what kind of financier you actually have to talk to as a business is difficult. But today we will have a number of solutions for that, really. So the Circular Economy Finance Navigator, for example, should be helping with this kind of questions. What is the second biggest challenge? I mean, there's 2/17. Challenges in pitching your initiative or communicating in investor language. Yes, also a very good one. I mean, what we have learned, and I think Luke will also touch a bit on that later, is just really engage also with the financial sector. Try to ask what they want to hear before you just create your entire pitch. What is the last thing? Perceiving circular economy business models as too risky to invest in. This remains an issue. Also for that, there's a number of solutions, blended finance that can de-risk more public financing institutions that can basically take a higher risk in their investments. So it's a common problem. And adjusting the risk models in the end is a solution, but it's something we are all working on with the financial sector. And then what else can we learn from today's first insight? And up to 3, what do you hope to work with from the session? Financing, finance opportunities, financing, best financing ideas, financing virtual. Yeah, I mean, it is clear that a lot of the participants today are actually looking for financing. And I think you are exactly at the right session for that. So we hope we can help you on this journey today. And that was the last insight from the online poll. Like I said, keep the other link open. You can really submit questions throughout the session there. And then we're moving to the next agenda point. And that is Martin. Martin, welcome. You will launch the report today, right?
I think so, yes. Thank you, Marvin. So it was almost launched, so I see it. Yes, thank you for introducing me, Marvin. I have the honor to launch our report on financing today. The report was prepared in the Prevent Waste Alliance Financing Working Group. It was elaborated by Prevent together with the impact investment organization Sagana and the Canopy Lab. And well, you can now see it. Finally, you have two QR codes. I don't know if we can also post a link in the chat for the online community to access the new financing circular report by Prevent. Okay, then I go into the next slide, please. So I work at Go Circular. I forgot to say that. I work more on climate change and organic waste, but of course we also have a financing team, and I have the honor to speak on behalf of them today. Okay, so the report, as I said, it's elaborated as part of the Prevent Waste Alliance, and the Prevent Waste Alliance was founded by our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development in 2019. Prevent is an international network with more than 600 organizations working on circular economy and waste management. There are several working groups, including on electronic waste, on plastic waste, on organic waste, but we also have cutting working groups, and for instance on financing, and that's how this report evolved. Next slide, please. I think we will see exactly. So the report is structured in two main parts. Part one takes a look at the supply side. So it's targeted to investors, policymakers, funders, and shows some research on why circular finance is important, what can be the impact, and also what you get from it as an investor. And part two is focused on circular economy organizations who work with circular economy, and it gives practical advice, hands-on advice on how to access funding. How was it done? So there were many interviews and a survey among organizations with almost 80% from low and middle income countries. There were more than 50 interviews, more than 1,200 funding institutions were analyzed, and we always took this balanced view, which you can see in part one and part two, taking a look at the supply side and the demand side. Next slide, please. The results of part one. As I said, it's about the supply side. So as Marvin already said in the beginning, there is a gap. You can get finance for projects less than $50,000 and for more than 1 million. Obviously, it's different instruments, but between that, the gap is existing, and it's normal, but it's even worse when it comes to circular economy. So that's one finding. Then we found that investors sometimes have trouble in understanding circularity, and they might see it as a high risk compared to other topics which are more common. And yeah, that's why there's a lack of capital. Same goes to structural barriers, as we call it here. So basically, circular economy is not a standard instrument, to summarize the challenge, and there's a low visibility. And also, as we are still before the transformation to circularity, even though we do the World Circular Economy Forum to accelerate that transition, still the regulations are designed for linear economy. So every circular economy in finance still depends on voluntary funding or green premiums. And I think we have findings of part two, which are the recommendations to circular economy organizations. So it's important to know at what stage of growth your organization is currently. So is it a startup? Did it grow already? Is it bigger? So that you can talk to potential investors. You can use the Prevent Circular Economy Finance Navigator, which my colleague Lena will present later. So it will give you some advice on how to find the right funding entity. You should be prepared to know your numbers, to talk the language of investors if you want to, grow and get funding. Also, be strategic. That means sometimes it's not easy to find the right investor, but it's worth to search for finding the investing company, and also look for more than only funding. So funding is important, but you can also get more, for example, knowledge, mentorship, and technical support. And always when you talk to investors, it's important to still, as I explained, circular economy is not a standard finance instrument. So make the effort to explain what is the impact, not only environmental and social impact, but also beyond, and how does it pay back to the investor. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah. So that's the recommendations to investors and funders. As you see, more than half of the WCEF funding analyzed was venture capital. So it's regarded as still as a more risky and not standard form of investment. So we recommend to funders just to integrate the circular economy perspective, to adjust evaluation frameworks, also adapt the metrics to include circular economy, and also to include risk-tolerant patient capital so that more circular aspects can be taken into account. I think the next slide is maybe the last, or that's the last one. I had 5 minutes. I'm afraid I talked a bit more than 5 minutes. So now we have the report. Please, as I said, feel free to download it, to read it, also give your feedback on it, because as a next step, we are going to implement it, to build capacity, to continue also asking you, the crowd, the circular economy companies, organizations, and also invited to use our CE funding navigator, which Lena will present later. And as my colleague wrote here, circular economy, it's an environmental necessity. It's also a social necessity, but it's more than that. It's, from the investment side, it's $1 trillion opportunity. And I think I come to the end with that sentence.
Yeah, what a bombshell. Thank you. I mean, it's really a great report. We also use some of the insights really for the circularity gap report finance. I think since 60% of the participants today are businesses, I think the second report is really of relevance. So it's really to try to download that, read through it. I mean, the first part is also relevant to understand what financiers are thinking, maybe. But then the second part seems to be of most relevance. Yeah, exciting to dive deeper into that. Thanks, Martin. We are now having our first business, and I would like to invite Joanna on stage to present a bit her experience from Bergmonde, and yeah, really what were the challenges and how you actually made it work. Welcome.
Hola, buenos días. So, well, Vermont, it's an electronic waste recycling electronics startup, I would call it still, because we still keep changing our business model to fit everything that it's changing in the context. And one of the things that we had to do after COVID precisely was going more into the circularity, and it kind of fades out so much the recycling end of life. And one of the main challenges was first, like, to analyze whether the market was ready for it. The second one was financing. So one of the first things that as a founder you start doing is like looking for normal banking. And that really went not so well, because whenever as an entrepreneur with something innovative, something that you haven't tested so much and it is not so common yet, you try to go to get some financing, they will not understand it sometimes. And we are requested like these very big financial guarantees, like 150% of what you're asking for in assets. It's like, if I would have that much money, I wouldn't be here. So yeah, that was the first thing. It was really not so easy to go to financing. And then in Latin America, I don't know if the rest of the world, but in Latin America, we have this trend now with social impact funds. And that seemed a little bit a better fit, because actually they are looking for you and they kind of understand what you're trying to do. So that was a little bit a better match. Yet I think you really have to be also wise in terms of choosing social impact funds, because as I think it was Martin was saying, actually financing, it's a lot more than money, and you should be looking for more than money, not just a grant or lending, but someone that can actually support you and open doors and help you with a lot of other things. And that is what we were looking for, like in the country, someone that can open doors for us and give some mentoring and stuff. And that was that didn't went well either. So we got money, but we didn't get the rest of support, not money support that we were looking for. That was very kind of disappointing because at the end it was a bank requesting a lot of reports and due diligence and stuff, and we were not really getting any other kind of support. So, but anyways, it was already done. 4 years of investment, and after that, we had to make an exit because although it was an equity-based investment, at the end it was just 4 years. And after 4 years, we had to make an exit and give the money back. So it was pretty much, we just lending money and we borrow money. And that is another interesting thing when choosing investors, I think, is like how they are investing. Is like for the good, or is it a lending based with equity? And one of the things that really worked well then was going to grants. That is a little bit more difficult because you actually have to be prepared with all the technical and the pages and everything to present your project. But I think grants are a very good way to kickstart an idea. When you are starting something that is not proved, that is not proven in the market, that is maybe very innovative, you're trying to create something, I think grants worked well. In our case, we got a couple of grants for the circular electronics project. It is still running up now. Some other parts, it just didn't went well. Like not everything that we envisioned in terms of build models, it worked, not all the lines. But the main project is running well. So I think that helped us kickstart. And from there on, you can continue, either growing organically, or once you have something tested and proved and it seems like working, then it's easier to get like funders or partners or whatever. So I think that is pretty much how we have managed it in Ecuador, basically, and this is like just the context probably locally.
Thank you so much. This is, I think, super helpful to really look more from a business perspective because you've actually been through it. So what I take away is first, don't just go to a bank, right? So that's not always the best start. So there's many more funders and financiers out there. So that's one thing. Grants can work well. Grants can really help you kickstart. But at the same time, you really need to be ready for them. You should prepare your stuff good, and then you have a higher chance of success. But also talk to whoever's the grant giver or the financier, so they can also provide more than just money, but give you the assistance and make clear what you are actually asking for. Cool. If you have questions for Joanna, you can put them in the chat, and we will, at the very end of the session, still have a Q&A, and Joanna will be back on stage. So thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, yeah, great, thanks. We have more insights from another project called Definite, I mentioned in the beginning, from the Circular City Regions Initiative. And that's a project where a lot of projects applied basically for. And Luke will share a bit the learnings from the project. Luke.
Thank you very much, Marvin, and thank you everybody for being here. So I'm actually a colleague of Marvin's at Circle Economy. We both in the finance program together, but today I'm actually representing Definite CCRI, which is what they call a Project Development Assistance Program, otherwise known as an Accelerator program, focused specifically on the circular economy and specifically on supporting high potential startups in their capital raising journey. Just to note, CCRI is part of the Circular Cities and Region Initiative from the European Commission, and actually it involves, so I think, 8 similar programs to this. And the idea behind the Commission is to develop a number of different programs and really look critically at what works well and what doesn't work so well when developing these accelerator programs for projects. I've been involved in two of them, and definitely I think has been the best of the two because of how hands-on the support is that we give to the projects. And this is what we call the deal engine, which is really the process of the project development assistance. So we really start from the beginning. In the project approval stage, we have a number of applications, which we then reviewed both in terms of a technical standpoint and what the impact potential is of that project, where it's developed and scale, but also the financial side as well. And in doing that, we developed these baseline assessments. So we really gave a score to all of the projects to understand the kind of financial viability, but also the impact potential. And based on these scores, we chose 4 of the projects that we thought could benefit the most from the program, to move into the support stage, which is, as I say, 4 months, very hands-on, working directly to prepare all of these projects to undertake the due diligence process, which, as Joanna mentioned, can be quite taxing and can require a huge amount of documentation that often the kind of innovative, creative, entrepreneurial types that exist within the circular economy aren't as comfortable with, as the ideation and the creativity. So that's where we come in, and we're now in the deal brokerage stage. So we're actively pitching our projects with them to investors. Between them, already raised 750,000 euros. So it's been a success materially, but regardless of the capital raised, it's been really powerful to see how far all of these projects have come as part of this. And what I'm going to do today is actually share, in the spirit of practical guidance, some of the further tools that we've released as a result of this. And in the panel later, I'll share some more kind of direct experience of the projects themselves and what we did for them along the way. But before I do that, we're going to hear from one of the projects themselves. Just on the next slide, we have a video message from Anna. Oh, that's the old slide. Okay. I don't know if we can find the most updated version of the slides. Looking at the people online. Oh. Okay, then I will try my best to tell Anna's story by myself, but that's a shame. She's actually from Sao Paulo, so it's a particularly, it's a shame that she's not here, but she's actually based in Iceland, and her idea is called the Circular Library Network. So you might have heard of the Library of Things solutions. It's the idea that in communal spaces, such as student accommodation or in libraries or educational facilities, rather than every home owning their own drill or hoover or other kind of appliance, you have a kind of a shared locker system in the foyer. That means when you need the drill once every 2 months, you can go and access that without having to buy one yourself. So it makes a lot of sense, right, for those kind of goods. Material use drops significantly, and it's also often significantly cheaper for the users. And what Anna also did was develop the software behind the solution as well. So she sells, of course, the physical lockers, but what she can also do is sell the software behind them, which means if you have your own kind of locker system, you then have all of the digital infrastructure to actually operate one of these programs as well. So really fantastic idea, and it's a real shame about the lack of video, because Anna is just like a ferociously brilliant and creative entrepreneur who I admire very much. But yeah, so she's been going through her seed round, and yeah, she has lots of tips and tricks, but she's just closed that seed round. And yeah, I think the main thing that she would say, the message that she would say, is really to put yourself out there. So she really prioritizes going to big events, to meeting investors. She's very forward with them. She knows the strength of her idea, and she makes sure to get that message across. And I think that's something that's particularly prevalent with the circular economy. It's really important to sell the problem before you can sell the solution. And I think that's a cliche in some regards, but it's in the circular economy, still often investors aren't quite seeing, material use as the problem, because they're more focused on other environmental concerns. So Anna really makes sure to let that be known. And she's got incredible anecdotes of her kind of sofa surfing and crashing in the houses of her investors. And it's also in the same way that you said, Joanna, she's been very picky over who she actually lets, take a stake of her business, because she really wants the mentorship and the access to the network and stuff like that. So if we are able to get the video later, maybe we have time to show, but that's a flavour for now. And I'll go into some more detail on the success of some of the other projects and as I say, some more of those tips and tricks. But as I said, we learned a lot from this process. I think maybe the main thing was that you have these very creative entrepreneurial types as the project owners, or the fund seekers, as you'll call them. And then on the investment side, there is this lack of understanding for the circular economy, its value, and especially how to assess it. So what we wanted to do was make the kind of definite experience accessible to anybody that's kind of struggling with raising capital as a circular economy business, because they are, we think, at a structural disadvantage, especially as Marvin says, in a world of venture capital where money is currently tight at the moment, and everybody's focusing on digital innovation and AI, and not the perhaps kind of slower, more steady growth of a circular business focused on business model innovation, material innovation, or whatever it is. So we've distilled our deal engine into a circularity tool, which we'll be releasing on the 30th of June. It's split in two parts, and both of these parts cover both the financial side of things, but also the technical development of your project as well. It starts with a very simple pre-screening, just to determine whether whether your project is ready to undertake this tool at the moment, or whether you need to just get some really kind of basic foundational things in place first. And then the next part of the readiness module is to develop this technical and financial baseline, which is really a more comprehensive picture of where you're at. And again, if there's certain things that are missing still at this stage, the tool will recommend you go back and make sure you've got all the groundwork in place. Once you've completed this readiness module, which should take about no more than a month and can be a lot quicker if you have the time, you then move to the training module, which is really focused on preparing your business for due diligence, basically. It's part of the bank's due diligence or financier's due diligence, which, as you can see, is a lot longer process. It's a lot more detailed, and it really helps you build up all of this documentation proactively before you're in the room having the conversations with investors, and you then realize that you need to do so. So what I think is the kind of USP of this is that it's distinctly oriented towards the circular economy, which is quite rare. And as I say, there's a lot of specifics in a fundraising journey for a circular business that aren't as relevant in others. So yeah, that's what I think is so valuable about this. And if we just look at the next slide, the latter part of that, so the due diligence preparedness, is already out on as kind of a playlist of YouTube videos. So if you want to just jump straight into a specific element of this, as say covering financial and technical side, and you don't want to wait for the 30th of June when there'll be a more comprehensive kind of platform that guides you through that lets you do kind of tests on certain things, or lets you tick off what you've completed and what you've not completed yet, then you can already dive straight into the YouTube. And we've got, I think, 20 plus what we call capacity building videos focused on preparing for due diligence in the circular economy. That's all I wanted to share for now. Yeah, as I say, in the panel later, really looking forward to sharing some more specific insights from the journey of the projects that we've worked with. Because, yeah, as I say, they've learned a lot, we've learned a lot, and they've been a huge success. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
Summarize a bit some things that I took away. So first of all, there are specific programs that really try to link financiers and businesses, and this is one of the examples. I mean, the funding rounds are closed now, but there is more of these projects in different regions available. So that's a good learning, I think. I think if we get the video later on, that will still be great. Yeah? No? Also?
No, I'll send it.
Okay. You just give me a sign. But anyway, I've also talked to NNG, it's amazing. And I think one learning from there is, get out there. So for an entrepreneur, you need to show also what your value add is and engage. But also being selective about who is actually financing you in the end. Because what Anna really said is that she wanted the mentorship. It's more than just the money. It can really help you to accelerate and scale up. So I think that's a very important learning as well. All those links, by the way, and tools and reports, we will make the slides available and also share the links afterwards with you so you can read them up. One more learning I have, I think, is what Luke mentioned is understanding really the due diligence process. So that's again something that when you engage with the financiers, they all unfortunately have a bit of a different way of looking at your financing, but also looking at your impact assessment. So what kind of indicators you need to have to show basically that you are circular. So it's very important to kind of understand what the financier is expecting from you in this due diligence process. Yes, so okay, that's that, Luke. Thanks for that. We are now moving to the next section of our session, and it's very exciting because it is the launch of the Finance Navigator from the Prevent Waste Alliance / GSS. And I'll hand over to Lena.
Thanks, Marvin. Hi again from the Prevent universe. My name is Lena Fürst. I'm an advisor at GSS based in Colombia, and part of the Go Circular Global program, which hosts the Prevent Waste Alliance. And as you can see here, there's another code that you can scan, another launch. So a really busy session. We have already heard from Martin about the circularity report that has been launched. And now I want to talk a bit more about a practical vision that we are working on, which is the Finance Help Desk of Prevent, which is not there yet, but we are working towards it. And today we are launching the Finance Navigator, which is the first step towards this vision. So as we already heard, Marvin said it, Joanna said it, it's really hard sometimes, even if you have a good circular innovation, to find the right kind of financing. And also what became clear early, it's not only about financing, but also non-financial support, getting ready for the finance. So what we want to work on is a comprehensive support system for the Prevent members who are looking for finance. And what we have already is a database of more than 450 finance providers, which is built and which will be the foundation for this support. So based on this database, we want to have like a comprehensive support system where people can get advisory services on how to access finance, on how to access the right finance. So right now I will tell you a bit more about the Finance Navigator, where you can find out about potential matches with funders. But also in the mid or long term, we want to offer like support in creating pitches, financial models, business models, with a set of financing consultants, which will be linked to the Prevent and will offer this the service for the Prevent members. Also stuff like newsletters informing you about the latest grants, about funding calls that could be relevant, and also on the investor side to work on investor education also on circular economy, which is something we heard about that sometimes it's hard for them to understand the specific risks, but especially also the opportunities that come with a circular model. So this is the vision, and today we are launching like the first step towards this bigger project, and this is the Finance Navigator, which is a really practical tool for you based on an online questionnaire, and we will just demo it in a second together with Joanna. So yeah, it's a tool where you fill out 7 questions, where you provide some information on your business, where you're located, what you're looking for, what development stage you are in. And then based on these questions, the database that I mentioned with the 450 financing providers is searched, and you will be provided with up to 10 matches of potential funders that you can then contact, reach out to learn more about, and that will hopefully be a good orientation for you to start doing the work. And you can also see it here on the slide, right? Filling out the questionnaire, then the filtering of the database, you get the list of potential funders, and then we put here the real work begins, because then you can prepare to approach the different funders. This is really something that does not exist yet, specifically for circular economy. So we're really excited for you to try it out. It's only for the members of Prevent. So anyways, I would recommend you to check out also the Prevent if you're not a member yet, because there's also a very engaged working group on finance where you can also find like-minded people and discuss challenges or other topics of interest. So that being said, I would invite Joanna back here with me to do like a little live demo so you can see what I'm actually talking about. And yeah, maybe you can sit here so we can move the mic. So yeah, Joanna, we already heard from you, right? You mentioned some challenges, and now let's say you are a Prevent member. You are trying out this new tool, so you want to see how it goes with you, right? Yeah, I will help you with this. So yeah, so for everyone, wherever you're looking at the screen, at home or here, when you access the link, what comes first is like a little intro. What is it about? What does the navigator do and what does it not do? There I also wanted to emphasize that, as I said, it provides you with an overview of potentially matching funding sources and also some more training resources and other materials that we have in Prevent. For example, the study will be there that Martin presented. What it doesn't do, it's not a direct link to the funders. Yeah, it's based on public information, so there's no guarantee for funding or application approval, just to also manage expectations. But yeah, you have this overview based on your inputs. So now we can go down, and in the internet they will help us to click us through the navigator. So the first question would be, I have to get up because I cannot read it either. But yeah, so the first question that you will be asked if you're using the Finance Navigator is, please select the type of organization you belong to. So if we can see the drop-down menu, please. I mean, you can also share right now before the drop-down. Oh, well, they are also already selecting it. So your private sector, we already know that. So that was not a surprise anyway, so we can keep moving. So please, if you can show us the drop-down menu, is it possible? So people can see which growth stage you are. So the second question is, which growth stage or development stage is your organization in currently? And I would hand over to you so you can explain a bit where you're at and what you're looking for.
Okay, so in our case, it's already working, it's proven, and it has been organically growing, but now we really need like investment for fast moving growth, I think. So that makes us, what?
Yeah, I can help you with the option. I think when we were talking about it, we selected Series A, so you already have a working product, you have a business, but you want to scale it, right? You want to bring it to the next stage. Also, if you are working on the Finance Navigator, there's always a little question mark where you have more explanations on the different options. Sorry, it's so small. But you can choose in this stage like concept stage, pre-seed, seed, series A, B, and C. Basically, these are the options. So Joanna selected Series A. Then we would go to the next question, please. And this is what is the reason your business is looking for financing? And we have developed scaling up or expansion concept, market industry research, generate revenue, marketing and advertisement, or you're not sure yet, which is also a possible answer. What would you select, Joanna?
I think the developing like the scale up and expansion concept.
Okay, yeah, here you could select up to 2 options, and if you're not sure yet, of course, it's also possible, but the more info you already have, the better the options or the results in the end will be. So fourth question would be to select the region. This would be in your case.
Yes, just I guess Latin America if there is, or South America, let's narrow down. And then focus country would be Ecuador. And everything in Ecuador. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like the market you're interested in and also the country you're registered in. So that also influences if you're eligible for a certain fund. So once we fill that out, you can, and this is now interesting, you can either choose financial support, which we know is what everybody wants, but you can also find sources of non-financial support. What do you select in this case, Jana?
For the sake of the exercise, we're going to select the financial support.
Okay, yeah, that's more exciting, right? For this launch at least. And then you are provided with a lot of different instruments that you could choose depending on the development stage that you selected and your funding interest or your interest, right? So we have grant, equity, quasi-equity debt, debt guarantee, mezzanine financing instruments. And again, here you can also see more information on each category, and you can choose whether you're looking for a project structured with project finance or regular.
So maybe debt, and if I can choose to like grant, and then a specific project, I don't know.
Okay. So let's try that. Okay, and then the questions are done. So you can see it's quite quick, it's quite hands-on. And then you get like an overview of the options you chose. And have to accept the privacy policy. Of course, it's already really anonymous. And then you get the results. So for Joanna's options that she selected, you have up to 10 matches now, where you can look at some information. For example, here the DRK foundation, what's the level of circularity, the ticket size, type of instrument, and this is always based on the public information. So for example, here we don't have this ticket size because it wasn't available publicly, right? But you could go down more just to have an overview, with all the information, and it's also possible to download it as a PDF. So yeah. Thank you so much. You already have this PDF, so later you can approach Joanna to see what she thinks, if it's helpful. But yeah, that's what we wanted to present today. And the QR was already shared, but also later in the chat we can put again the link, also the invitation if you're not a Prevent member and you think this could be helpful for you to reach out to us, to become a member and engage not only with this, but also in the different working groups. Yeah, thanks, Marvin.
Thanks. It's in Casey, it makes it all a bit more tangible. So thanks for that. And thanks for the great tool. Become a Prevent member, I would say. It seems like a very useful tool. I think personally why this is really cool is it also, if you're not really aware of the financial sector and the options yet, it already challenges you a bit and teaches you more about what you can expect. So what does it actually mean? Series A, B, C, or this weird words like mezzanine finance, and maybe just equity and debt is still also familiar to you. So it's also kind of a learning tool to just get familiar with what the financial sector is asking from you. All right, talking about the financial sector and the financiers, we are moving to our next section, and for that I would like to invite Rachel on stage. She comes from the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, and she can share some more insights from really the financing angle. Yes, Rachel, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Marvin. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'll use my notes because it's quite a lot to say, and I have to keep it in 5 minutes. So, as Marvin mentioned, Rachel runs the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, nature-based economies program, where we are actively working on advancing the circular economy in the Caribbean region. And so, on the next slide, I just have a brief bit about the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund. We are a regional environmental fund working to ensure long-term sustainable financing for biodiversity conservation, climate change, and then more recently and more actively, circular economy interventions in the region. So we manage a flexible portfolio of financing mechanisms. We have an endowment fund and 2 sinking funds, which support these thematic areas mentioned, and our current portfolio is just over $200 million. So getting into the Advancing Circular Economy Facility on the next slide, the mechanism is a regional grant making initiative to support innovative circular economy solutions to reduce marine pollution, particularly in the Caribbean region. So we are funded by the BMZ, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, through the KfW Development Bank. On the next slide, sorry. With technical support provided by the GIZ. So the first call for proposal was issued in mid-2024. It was well received in the region, so this is where our lessons learned that we will discuss comes from. We received 77 concept notes, and then stellar statistics. We had 14 projects that were a potential good fit that made it into our full proposal phase. So some of the key challenges on the next slide, which is what we want to focus the discussion on today, that we recognized in terms of how we designed the call for proposals and what crossed our desk, we would go through. So overall, we felt like the call for proposals was well received. There was strong interest and creativity from the region. But of course, we recognize some cross-cutting common challenges such as limited technical capacity, weaker business models, and a difficulty with articulating circular economy in our traditional linear waste management landscape as the region right now. So overall, some Caribbean countries still operate within this linear management model with limited recycling infrastructure and minimal source separation. So we also have a lack of financing mechanisms at the national level. So it made it quite difficult for some of the project designs to plug their design into these existing systems to demonstrate this practical pathway to reuse and recovery. So several of the applicants we found equated circular economy simply with recycling and cleanup efforts. So when I talk about the lessons learned, you'll see how we hope to improve on our messaging there. So in several instances when we saw that focus, there was a lot of upstream management interventions. And so this limited innovation made it difficult to assess the true circularity of these projects. Then we have many of the proposals were creative with relevant concepts, but then they lacked a robust business model. So this we saw in quite a few projects where there were poor financial projections, unclear revenue streams, and unrealistic timelines and targets as we understood it. And all of these are, of course, critical to securing funding. We would have issued a robust and published our evaluation criteria. So for us, it was difficult to match these with our call as we were not able to see a clear demonstration of sustainability beyond the grant funding period, which is something we were looking for. Then we have several of the projects did not clearly demonstrate how the projects would continue after the grant funding period. So we were looking for partnerships, good revenue models, or institutional integration, and there were some gaps there. And so that's also affected the areas we were looking for in terms of scalability of the projects. So then we also have, we heard about KPIs and monitoring circular economy. So quite a few of the applicants lacked realistic baseline data. So it's something we saw gaps in. The indicators were not well defined and matched our monitoring, evaluation, and learning plan. And so that made it difficult to connect with the evaluation criteria that we had. So key project design elements, such as the use of the templates, also proved to be difficult. Risk assessment, including the ESMS structure that we had set out, and the monitoring and evaluation framework. It was also misused or underdeveloped, which would have then reduced the competitiveness of some of the concepts. So we have a few lessons learned from our first call that we wanted to mention, and it ties in nicely to some of the discussion that we had. So as part of the call, we have a project preparation grant of $10,000 US. So once you make it past concept note phase, you have the ability to use this money to develop a robust full proposal. And with that, you could seek technical support to develop the proposal, conduct stakeholder engagement, better design your project, or even do your baseline investigation so that you set some realistic targets and understand nationality. And we felt like that worked really well. Secondly, we have a positive here where we made provisions for a sustainability and project development consultant to work independently of us with each of those grantees that made it to the full proposal phase in a structured manner. So this consultant would have put the grantees that made it to this phase in direct touch with our needs and the requirements of the facility as they move through the full proposal design. In terms of what we are looking at and to improve, we'll be looking at our streamlined messaging to emphasize the need for more upstream solutions, reinforcing core circular economy principles, so we recognize the need for self-capacity building as we also promote the call for proposals that we move forward with. We have some sector-specific gaps and guidance applications to applicants that we need to address also. And lastly, we recognize the need for accessible tools and guidance to help quantify circular benefits and demonstrate cost effectiveness. So just briefly, what's next? It's just to alert you that in October of this year, on the next slide, we have a bit of information on the second call for proposals. We also open to regional and international organizations that can partner with eligible countries under our call for proposals. So we invite you to pay attention to that. And that is it in a nutshell. Thank you. And I look forward to discussing more as we move into the Q&A.
Okay, so in October there is actually a new call for proposals, so I think that's something to remember. What I take away also for businesses trying to look for funding, always try to look what financiers look for, how risky is this investment? So if you provide that information, show where there is the risk, and you have to be honest about it, but also where there is no risk, where they might be afraid of, that is really key, I think. What else did you mention? The baseline, so having the right indicators. If you provide indicators, make sure that the data that you provide is also, founded in reality and properly gathered and so on, and show how you got to that baseline, into that information. And of course, the circular economy element, that not just looking downstream, the circular economy is not just recycling. It is also very much about the design phase very early, the use phase, optimizing the utilization and so on. So that's some of the takeaways I have. Okay, we have two more presentations, and I will have to ask my presenters to be relatively brief, so we still get to the questions. And the next is Monica from the Pro-USAR Fund.
Thank you, Martin. I'm going to be here so I can be able to read a little bit the slide. So, as Martin said, I'm going to present you the Pro-USAR Fund. Can you please go to another slide? The Pro-USAR Fund is an outcome-based payment fund, but initially I want to explain you who I am. I am the director of Visión Circular. We are an EPR program of packaging. Can you please go to the... Okay, thanks. So we are an EPR program led by Andy. Andy is a National Business Association. Beautiful. What do I do? Okay, thanks. And we have 400 associates that have the compliance of this EPR packaging resolution in Colombia. Yeah. So in Visión Circular, we have what we
Stay forward.
forward.
Next slide.
Next slide. Okay, thanks. So we have our mission objectives. We work on strengthening the value chains. We also work in packaging innovation for circularity. We work in social and productive inclusion, and strategic, territorial, and sectoral projects, and the responsible consumption and consumer education. Since 2023, we made a huge commitment on financing innovation. So we launched our innovation office to finance and scale innovative solutions across 5 key circular economy models. And the initiatives aims to strengthen and accelerate Colombia's innovation ecosystem studies. We have a lot of challenges in that aspect. So, next slide. So the proposal outcome-based payment fund search look for Colombia's first result-based payment fund for circular economy innovation. And this initiative is supported by the Germany cooperation that aims to accelerate and scale business solutions to promote sustainable production and responsible consumption. So this fund works upstream, not downstream. That is also very innovative because mostly the most financial funds are like downstream, not upstream. So that is a very important aspect. I want to make some to remark some key difference between the traditional financing and versus the outcome-based financing that is very important. So normally, the financial is looking for based on planned inputs or activities, for example, or released before outcomes are achieved, focuses on completing tasks and spending budget. The funder bears most of the risk, even if outcomes aren't achieved, and low limited motivation to exceed expectations. With this new model of outcome-based financing, what we are looking what is to base on verified outcomes. Now I'm going to explain you. Funds that are released only after agreed-upon outcomes are achieved and verified. Focuses on delivering measurable impact and results, implementers take on more risk, and are incentivized to innovate and optimize. And finally, high performance payments encourage efficiency and creative problem solving. So this is our bet with this proposal fund. Next slide. So it is the fund's objective to recognize and strengthen the efforts made by companies across value chains. We work in textile, value chain, packaging, and electronic devices to develop and adopt innovative upstream ventures within circular economy. What does the fund recognize? Sorry, there was a mistake. So what we recognize, the reduce substitute and include recycled content, remanufacture, refurbish, reuse, and easy to recycle. So that was our principles indicators that we were recognizing in this fund. Next slide. We have this governance structure of the fund. We have this executive committee where Germany cooperation was the granted funding and the one that gave us the technical assistance. We assigned it, and also another business association as FENALCO. We were the fund administrators, and also in this steering committee, they were participating Acoplástico, that is also another business association, and Colombia Productiva, there is a program of the Ministry of Commerce in Colombia. So we're the ones who are making all the decisions about the fund. What are the key findings of the fund? We have some initial hypotheses. For example, we anticipated a low number of applications, assuming that few companies would be willing or ready to engage in this type of initiatives. We expected the majority of participating companies to be large enterprises with greater resources and technical capacity to develop and implement innovative circular economy measures. And we assumed that the most of these companies would be located in countries' main cities, where access to infrastructure, support services, and information tends to be more concentrated. What happened? So next slide. So we have more than 300 enterprises that were interested on applying to the fund. At the end, we have 199 applications, You can see that with the value of change 34 in textile, packaging 60, electronic devices 24. This is a very important result. Mainly, the applications were from micro companies, then for large companies, and then medium companies and small companies. Also, we have a huge geographic distribution. There were not only applications from Bogotá, that is the capital, or Medellin. We have from every region of the country, so that was very interesting also. Next slide. And this is the final result. We have 23 companies that successfully completed the process and received funding from the Prosa Fund. Next slide. So I want to end only with some key learnings, is that design funding programs that tie disbursement to complete verified circular outcomes rather than just project activities involve both public and private actors in the design and governance of funding mechanisms to ensure relevant, trust, and shared ownership, incorporate robust, transparent evaluation processes to build credibility and prove accountability in public spending, design mechanisms that are accessible to a wide range of companies beyond large firms in major cities, encourage development partners to support the design, piloting, and scaling of innovative funding models. The success of Produsar was supported by international technical and financial cooperation, demonstrating the catalytic role such as partnership can play. And finally, better financial support with capacity building to strengthen local innovation ecosystem. So for us, this is our key learning and our reflections at the end of this fund. So thank you very much.
So, I mean, you already did a great summary, but again, I would like to try. So I think it was an outcome-based fund. What does it mean? It's really, you have to show where the impact is. And like Monica just said, it's not just the activity, but you really want to show the impact that you have. I also found it interesting that there was such a mix between micro and large applicants. So it's really kind of a broad spectrum that applied for it. We have one more presentation, then we go into the panel. I also heard that the video is ready. I hope that we can maybe play still the video during the panel, because Luke will dive into it. And now I would like to welcome on stage a bit of a different angle, our friend John Leeuwarden from the Netherlands, who really innovated the way how a municipality can also play a role and how you do use depreciation more accurately. So Christian, over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. You've had a lot of slides and a lot of words, and I hope you're still capable of digesting a little bit more. So see this as the dessert of this set of presentations, of course. So here we go. Yes, so my name is Christian Wallet. I'm from a country very far away from here, a small country, the Netherlands. A small part of that country is Friesland, and a small city within Friesland is Leeuwarden. Where I work at the municipality, and there I'm head of urban and economic development. Later this morning, the Circular Economy will publish a report specifically on this region, diving into the way that a region, on a regional level, circular economy can take place across sectors. And I can speak a lot about that. I will not do that, but please have a look at the report as soon as it is published. Next slide, please. And then somewhere else in the world. Yes, it works. Good. So about circular depreciation, it is very simple, but it may be very effective, not only within municipalities, but just about every governmental body, every business. This could be of interest for them. Of course, we all know the problem that circular investments tend to be more expensive and tend to be more complex in maintenance. We're not yet sure. We've not built a lot of things that are proposed to be circular or reusable, but they may very well be more expensive in maintenance. So we wanted to find where the financial space is to accept a higher investment because we expect that the value over time will be better. So how can we create financial space through circular depreciation? Key to this is the finding that a material recycle value of a material, a certain unit of material, is lower than when the material is actually a product or a half product that can be reused. On a material level, you end up with, say, 1 or 2 or 3% of the original value. Almost all the value has evaporated when you only want to recycle it. If you can use part of a construction, a bridge, a building, a viaduct, anything, you can reuse it, then the financial value of that specific part of that asset may be as high as 50 or 60%. It holds its value. That's the easy part. Next slide, please. I'll dive into this more specifically, but if we make this possible, and we are making this possible within the context of my municipality, a lot of municipalities are following this within the Netherlands, and I really hope that this is a new movement and a new way of tackling one of the financial problems. It very well may change business models across the entire column, across the entire construction column. It is very, very important to not only look at the initial costs, but the total cost of ownership. You really need to look at this from a long-term perspective. The design is everything here. You need to design, you need to construct, and you need to log everything that you do. If you want to do this, if you want it to hold its value after 30 or 40 years, you need to be very sure what the state of the material is, what kind of material, where did you put the screws, what kind of paint did you use. All those things you need to log, but you have to have it designed in a reusable way. So easy to dismantle is key in this. Next slide, please. So residual value. Normally we depreciate to 0. Here we depreciate to a certain percentage. This is evidence-based. We've looked at this thoroughly. There's scientific evidence, but it is emerging. It is shallow practice. It's emerging, but it's there, and we are getting there. We're doing it. There's a sort of legal base to do this. It took us a few months of discussion, but our accountant is now happy that we are doing this. It's a new calculation model. There's still very few practical examples, but we need to go do it. We will reassess this every year. Currently, we're looking at 5% for buildings and 10% for civil engineering, like public works, roads and infrastructure, bridges, aqueducts, like that. That's conservative. I'm confident it's way more. But this is expected value, and things can happen over time. The maintenance cost may be higher. Market prices may vary. So I'm on the easy side of this. So I will reassess these numbers year by year. There's 2 more slides, which I will not speak about a lot, but just I'd like you to look at this slide. This is part of our office. 80% of the material was pre-used. This is an old train ceiling. But everything you see here is old, and still it holds value. It had no value, or it had only material value. Now this is a 100-year-old frame. Now holds value even in 30 years' time from now. This is in the books for a certain amount of money. With that, I'd like to conclude. I can keep on speaking about this, but we don't have time.
Thanks, Christian. No, I have a lot of feeling about this, and I mean, you just mentioned the circularity gap report for your region will also be launched today, so that's great. Why is this important for businesses? Because they actually understand what the real world looks like. Materials remain having value, like depreciation, financing mechanisms, accounting mechanisms are made to make it seem as there's no value left, but there is value left and it's being used. So that's why it's an important lesson also for businesses to show this. You like put a highlight or highlight basically that you are creating something and that it remains value. Look at the entire life cycle of the products you're making potentially and so on. All right, let's go to the panel. So all the speakers may come back to on stage, please. Of course, with so many speakers, we have less time than we would hope to, but we still have solid 15 minutes. So please come back on stage. We have a couple of questions online, which I took note. I'm not sure if we can share them on the screen as well, but all right, we'll see. Okay, so I think two questions that I just already looked up online is what I personally were really curious about the answers is also. First question to Rachel. So there was someone really specifically asking about the fund because the fund is asking for I think that the fund is asking for how do you improve having positive sustainability and circularity value beyond the grant period. So maybe you want to just evaluate on that a bit. How can you actually prove that?
Thank you very much for the question. It's an interesting question, given that we're moving into and we're not outcome based, as we saw. So for us, we understand that we're going in with a level of risk in terms of assessing that at the onset. But what we sought to do was in the evaluation criteria, further break down what we would be looking for in terms of indicators of sustainability and how you can then demonstrate a viable business model. We understand that during the project period, which is 2.5 to 3 years, we may not actually see the success, but we're looking to indicators that you're going to continue on this positive trajectory. And by the monitoring and evaluation framework as we move through the execution of the projects, we'll be looking closely at those also. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I mean, it's online, if I look at the questions, is one of the main topics really. So what are the indicators? So what do you expect? And that's also a question that I would like to address to Monica. So there was a question around like, how is circularity, which KPIs are really being used to test whether or like prove that an investment or somebody looking for funding is circular?
Thank you very much. So in the fund, we define like 4 innovation categories to measure these outcomes. The first one was the reduction of virgin raw material use. The other one was the design to extend product lifespan. The eco-design for replicability, and digital tools. Those were our 4 main indicators in all the 3 mainstreams in textile, electronic devices, and also in packaging. So every value chain has a specific indicators, but we have this framework of indicators that to be able to measure all these things.
And this that can be found online, the indicators, it's available or?
Well, yes, there is the web page of ProSAR, so you can see these indicators and also I can share it if you want me. There is my email in the presentation, so we can share more information. Yeah.
I mean, this is of course crucial to collect the right information to apply for funding. So I understand that people ask for it. And then you can also reflect on that because in the definite project, there was also a number of applicants, of course, and how were they measured? So it was, I think one of the key indicators you just mentioned is virgin material use. So how much of the material you're using is coming basically, out of the earth directly and is not recycled. So that's very important indicators in most of these funds. But can you elaborate a bit on projects?
Yeah, exactly. So as I said before, we we assess them on both the financial side and the technical impact side. And I think they are very different approaches for each. You know, in financial assessments, it's very standardized. If you ask any type of business at any type of level of the same things, you know, almost like a checklist. Do you have these? And you kind of compare the numbers side by side. But the kind of breadth of types of impacts a business can have in the circular economy is huge. And so we realized very quickly that there wasn't really a kind of one size fits all approach to measuring the technical baseline. And compounding on that, we were also dealing with very early stage businesses that just didn't have the kind of capacity, resources, headspace to be kind of gathering data about the future impact or about the current impacts that they might have. So on both of those, we decided actually flexibility was optimal. We didn't necessarily try and kind of quantify their current impact, but instead we looked at the context in which their project exists, the region in which their project exists, and you know what would be the impact if they were to scale and if they were to achieve their ambition. So we looked at it more kind of potential impact they would have in the future rather than what they're doing right now. And yet not necessarily particularly quantifying specific metrics because they just didn't have the underlying data, but more looking at, you know, the context in which they exist and what the impact would be were they to scale effectively. So.
Yeah, so it just shows, I mean, financiers do not like that, but unfortunately, very often it's still case by case. So, and it's important. If you really want to make impact, you also have to go into the details. So, yeah, really, again, engaging with the potential financier and understanding what they are looking for and what kind of impact and how you can prove that is key. Also for the businesses to collect the right data. Joanna, do you have what kind of indicators are you being used for you, or how are you being tracked to ensure impact?
Even though like the financials were not the focus, but still they have a big weight. But then it would be social and like a triple impact. We have social and environmental impacts that we're tracking all the time. But it's most because of the purpose of how the business was created than because of the funders. So I guess that was also a match when we were already like tracking and setting up all these social and environmental impacts in the sense of like labor, like good quality labor, and all the waste management and all the environmental side. But we already have that, and then make it easier for the investment funds to qualify. So yeah.
Yeah, and also let's really understand that, right? So then you have the financial indicators; they are very important, and you have all the social impact, environmental indicators, and you need both. You always need both. But it's again engaging with financiers to understand what is needed, and also let's be real. But for a lot of financiers, it is true that they do not yet have the right impact indicators. So if you are proactive and you come up with like, this is the impact and this is how I can prove it, that will help you get access to financing. All right, Christian. So we learned that you really understand how to, appreciate the actual value of materials. And this is also a good example that the public sector is paying more attention to it, you said, and a number of municipalities are following. So how can this really also help businesses to access finance? What can they learn from this?
Part of any conversation for the financial institution when you want to access funding is the value of the proposition. And I think it's easy to understand that a circular design holds its value much better than a linear design. So in terms of bankability, I have no proof. It's emerging practice. It's a new idea, but I think it's that simple. It was that easily adopted by our accountants, and I'm quite confident that this new way of depreciating, circular depreciation, will definitely improve the bankability of any project.
There's a question online. Has it already incentivized local construction businesses to engage with you?
Yes, definitely. So we're trying rapidly to make this the new normal in the local procurement, design and procurement. So definitely, yes. One of the largest inner city new construction sites. We're building 2,000 homes in the railway area. And we're planning to have a circular water treatment and to have local sanitation of the water there. It will cost, the circular option is about 40 million euros more expensive. And many businesses are looking at us and want to cooperate because when they co-invest in this, they envisage that their investment will hold its value much better. So yeah, definitely.
Which just shows that the rules around are also very important for businesses. I know we have very limited time, unfortunately, but I'm also looking at the audience here. Is there a question maybe to our panel or any of the specific speakers? Don't be shy. You are shy. Okay. Maybe one more question that I've got online, and I also find it interesting. Whoever wants to answer may answer. So there was a question like, how do you raise funds for not yet financially viable propositions? The example was solar panel recycling. We have the proof that it's environmentally important. We know that the materials are valuable, but the business case is not yet financeable. That's the assumption. Do you have reflections on that?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I can speak to an example from the definite program. It's not quite the same, and I was going to touch on that as well. I think it just underlines the role of the public sector. I think in that specific example, because of the amount of social benefit that would come from doing that. But in the definite project, we worked with a project called Return to Sender, who developed a sustainable solution for pallet wrapping. So in logistics, the single-use plastic that wraps around things, and there's a huge amount of it is used daily around the world. They have a reusable version of that you can use, I don't know, over 100 times, and it's made using old bags, waste bags from construction. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. They were very early stage in their business, kind of had some difficult experience speaking to early stage investors, and decided actually for them what was, because they needed the track record, they needed to prove that it worked basically in order to unlock the investment. They decided, right, we're just going to kind of skip the financial sector and build up by building relationships with our chain partners, with supply chain partners, and with their potential customer base. So rather than going down the traditional route of raising capital, developing their productive capacity, creating a number of their products, and then kind of commercializing, they decided to kind of really build from the ground up, go out into the world, speak to 10, 15 different users of their products, position the products that they believe in, say, would you be willing to try it, to pilot it? Here's how many you can have, here's how much it will cost. And then just by being out active in the market, using it 10, 15 times, they developed the proof of concept and the track record that the product itself worked, but also started just kind of more naturally developing interest and raising revenue in the process. So there are also ways to kind of forego, and it doesn't work with every business model, but with some it definitely does, forego conversations with investors entirely, and go out into the market and build up slowly. So there are other ways to think about it that don't always involve traditional capital raising.
And to add that, I think one of the things that I've seen that works even for us is like when you're a startup, try to be the ID department of big companies that can use whatever it is that you're creating. And this is when these ecosystems where they match very innovative bioplastic whatever startups with biochemical companies or chemical companies, and they match them together. So pretty much you're doing the job of their ID team, and that will get you funding, whether it works or not, because it's of their interest later to have that solution. So be the solution for someone.
Yeah, that's a great tip. You basically create a demand for your product that's not there, right? So if people have to pay for getting rid of the solar panels, then, help them to have to pay less for getting rid of it and show the value of the materials that are there. Unfortunately, we have to round off. One more comment on that also is, when we talk about risk, that's exactly that, right? So solar panel recycling is a too risky investment at the moment. So also think of de-risking methods. When you have blended finance options where maybe public financiers can also chip in and they can take a bit more risk, and also help you with technical assistance to really get your value proposition ready, so you are a proper investment. I would like to thank these amazing speakers and panelists. So I think we learned a lot. We have a wide variety of insights from businesses directly, Joanna, from financiers, from basically project development assistance projects, from public representatives. It's a great session. There's a lot of more questions. You can also follow up. We will follow up with the questions online. We will share all the slides and the recording with all the participants. And thank you so much. Let's make the world more certain. All right.